The curse of the onshore flow played out today. If you were in New Jersey, and basically from New York City south and west into eastern Pennsylvania, you were stuck in clouds all day, while on either side of it, you got to see at least some breaks of sun. But this is the blocking pattern we have, and we're going to have it for the next 10 days to 2 weeks. We'll have all that and much more tonight on The Joe Show. I don't know where he is. He's, you know what? Let me check. Hang on 1 second here. Hold on. Nope, he hasn't sent me a text message. So I have no idea. So welcome tonight to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which at least for the time being is just with one Joe. I'm Joe Chaffee. If you're watching for the first time on my YouTube channel, welcome. Joe Rayo and I do weather here 5 days a week, Sunday through Thursday. Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Monday through Thursday, we usually go at it at 7:30 Eastern Time, unless one of us has something to do, and then we might move it earlier or make it a little later. But tonight is the 7:30 start time. So anyway, hope everybody had a very good weekend. We had a very nice day today again with sunshine and temperatures up around 80 degrees, although we did get into some high clouds, and those clouds have been kind of increasing as we move through the evening hours. Here from my abode in North Georgia, while Joe was probably sitting in clouds in the Hudson Valley. He must be having some kind of computer difficulty here, because by now he would have popped up uh, and at least messaged me about this. So anyway, uh, okay. So let me just get my phone and have it near me, just in case. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. I guess he must be having some problems with Messenger, because the chairman has just informed me that he needs the link to get into the show. So I'm going to take care of that. Live television, folks. This is, hold on. Uh, I don't want you to lose me. So just give me a moment. Bear with me, everybody, that uh,
Well,
you're having some issues, Mr. Rayo.
I couldn't. I Messenger was not working when I clicked on your link.
It would, no,
It just simply did not work.
oh, I'm outraged. How did you get the link
And
then?
now because I sent you two messages on the chat board, hoping that somebody would see them. Then I went back to Messenger to say, okay, let's try this again, and it worked. So there it
Yeah,
is.
go crazy. You know what it is, Joe? It's the curse of the
Technology is going to kill us.
Yes, but it's also the curse of
Yeah.
the onshore flow, which, depending on where you were today, played out in a big way. Uh, Woke up this morning, I looked at the satellite, and I was like, "What is that stick of clouds?" And it was just all the clouds to the west and to the north, and they're all moving their merry way from west to east. The clouds that were sitting in eastern Pennsylvania over New Jersey down to about Long Island, they were it almost looked like wintertime snow cover, where it was just sitting there and nothing was moving. It was very strange.
Well, I will say one thing. So far, I'm asking people how do they like this November and April weather pattern so far, and it's only going to get more November-like, I think, as we move through the rest of the week.
Oh, no doubt. The pattern we're in, headlining the show tonight about the blocking pattern that's in place and is going to be in place until further notice. Yeah, uh, the one upside I have, as someone who used to love to plant spring blooms like tulips and daffodils and so on. When it's cool like this, so because ultimately they do flower regardless of the temperatures, but when it's cool like this, those blooms can last for several weeks, as opposed to if you get an early heat wave and they open up and bloom and die within 3 days. So I always kind of liked it when it was cool in the spring, because all the work of putting the plants down, the bulbs down in the fall, would pay off quite nicely and quite handsomely during the spring months.
The block work is working against us for the moment, but when we get to later on in the week, when we have that area of low pressure kind of sitting over the Maritimes of Canada by Thursday, it's going to sit there from Thursday probably right on into the weekend. Huge high pressure system is going to come slowly but surely down from central Canada. And the only place it can go is south and east toward the mid Atlantic coast. And gradually, as things equalize, so to speak, as the low kind of flattens out and diminishes and the high builds slowly in from the west, we will have sunshine. In fact, we're going to have copious sunshine, I think, from Wednesday on through Thursday, Friday, and into the start of the weekend. The only problem is, of course, is that the winds are going to be both in the upper levels and also at the surface, mostly out of the north, which means cooler or chillier than normal temperatures. But still, at least we'll have a series of dry days and fair days coming up after we get past tomorrow, which looks to be a bit on the wet side, a bit on the showery side. Not a tremendous amount of rain, but with the weather front moving in and through, who knows, maybe about a half to three quarters of an inch of the wet stuff coming mainly tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening.
Yeah, I kind of split the whole thing in half because looking at this over the next 2 weeks, so basically this week is, except for tomorrow, is dry, and in fact, uh, Wednesday through Friday doesn't look as unstable in the upper atmosphere as it did back a few days ago. So it may be more sun and fewer clouds, and it should be pretty nice, although cool and on the windy side. And I thought maybe it might even stay dry right through the weekend. But next week it looks to me like the character of the block is going to change somewhat, so that instead of having dry and chilly weather, we're going to have we might have stretches of gloom and doom to deal with, depending on lows coming out from the west and where they ultimately wind up tracking.
Yeah, no question. By this time next week, we will be looking at, I think I agree with you, Joe, a prolonged period of rather cloud-filled skies and also rather wet weather and temperatures. Really, we're waiting here. We're sitting here waiting for a spell of, you know, long-term warmth, and it's just not happening. It looks like we will have next week temperatures that will either be near or even a bit below normal, and does not look like we're going to be getting into a prolonged warm weather pattern for a while.
Yeah. The one upside, I guess, even if it is below normal, the averages are moving up a degree every 3 or 4 days. So if we're still in this pattern at the end of May, at least at that point, we should be seeing temperatures getting up into the 70s rather than upper 50s and low 60s. So the normals go up, it won't feel as bad. I mean, we are going to warm up regardless. It's just that uh, if you're looking for if you're somebody that likes 80-degree weather day in and day out, you got to get on a plane and go someplace else because it ain't happening.
Yes,
So take a look. I got the
absolutely.
so I got the loop. I did a different loop tonight. And by the way, there's a couple of frames here where it goes white. I guess there was some kind of data outage there over at the Goes, but look at that patch of clouds. It's just kind of look at that over New Jersey,
Yeah.
eastern Pennsylvania, up to about the Hudson Valley, and into central Long Island. And from there east. Now, yesterday there were clouds that ran from northwest to southeast New England, and everybody else south and west of there was pretty much okay. But in this particular instance, some I don't know where this came from, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's just this arm that extends out from off the ocean. And if you look at the other clouds in New England, they're all moving northwest to southeast. It's the low levels of the atmosphere with that onshore flow. I mean, the clouds must not have been more than several thousand feet up. I mean, they had to really just be, basically a low overcast that came on in.
Yeah, and you're right. And sometimes these things happen. Maybe a little convergence, setting things off, and all of a sudden you have like literally out of nowhere just one big blob of clouds that happens to sit over one particular region, and all you can do is just like shake your head and say, "Well, whoever's underneath that, sorry." it's it eventually is going to go away, but yeah, it usually is very low level. Like only extends up to a couple of thousand feet into the atmosphere. And meanwhile, everybody all around, enjoying fairly decent stretch of weather, some nice weather, some sunshine. Sure could have used that out there today, though.
Yeah. Meanwhile, across the U.S., really not a whole lot happening. We have clouds that are streaming up with tropical moisture from Texas northeast up through the Mississippi Valley and into the eastern lakes. What's left of the weekend blizzard in the northern plains that has now moved up into Canada. That storm is weakening, and the cold front itself is really not all that impressive. And when we look at the radar, uh, I had to get away. I had to get away from those white frames were making me dizzy there. But if you look at the radar, there's actually a fairly decent amount of rain, but all of this is going to the north. What you see up in around Toronto and moving up into Quebec province. I mean, all of that is moving northeastward and not coming here. There's a little severe thunderstorm warning that's up just south of Buffalo at the moment, and then we've got a few other showers and storms moving through parts of Ohio, and then as we head further south. We're seeing some showers and storms in a line in northwestern Alabama, down into southeast Louisiana, and then a bigger concentration of rain and thunderstorms in parts of southeast and south Texas. So that's all part of this cold front. But the front itself is probably I didn't think it was going to produce very much as it goes by tomorrow. Yeah, there'll be a few showers. There's a little wave that's going to develop on that front from the southern end of this. That might bring a period of rain tomorrow night into early Wednesday morning in mostly right along the immediate coastal plain from New Jersey to southeast to southern and southeastern New England. But that goes in and out relatively quickly. And then after that, yeah, it does look like it's going to be quiet for the rest of the week and into the weekend. I don't see any problems really, other than the day-to-day nonsense of figuring out, are there going to be any clouds that develop? But even there, as we said earlier, the atmosphere just looks very stable.
And indeed, and again, the only drawback to this would be the temperatures. Bernardo was talking about putting her bulbs in, and I said I think there's an old saying that you wait until after Mother's Day to do that kind of work, and I think she's going to hold off for another couple of more weeks before finally breaking down and putting her more sensitive plants in the ground. But it again, Joe, I just shake my head. It looks like it's going to be a spell of unseasonably cool weather for the next couple of weeks, at least.
Yeah. Storm Prediction Center not really showing very much tonight. There's a narrow area of marginal risk running from southeast Louisiana northeastward into western New York and western Pennsylvania for an isolated severe thunderstorm possibility. And there's also a marginal risk that's showing up down in parts of South Texas around the coastal bend. But other than that, it is quiet. Tomorrow we have a quiet setup here for severe weather. In fact, there's probably not going to be much of anything with regards to severe weather. In fact, there we go. Marginal risk from southeast Virginia, much of North and South Carolina in a marginal risk for an isolated severe thunderstorm. The general thunderstorms don't even make it north of the southernmost Delaware. And on the day 3, we have no severe weather being indicated by the Storm Prediction Center. Now, we do have something in the long range, so this will give us something to look at toward the end of the week. We've got on day 5, and this is for Thursday into Friday. Hang on, this thing is jumping around on me. I'm sorry, this is for Friday into Saturday as day 5. And there's a 15%, which would be the equivalent of a slight risk being indicated in far north central Texas into Oklahoma and parts of the eastern half of Kansas. So it looks like the southern and parts of the central plains look to be in line. And as far as rainfall is concerned, WPC, Joe, they're not really showing very much. They're only showing about a tenth to a quarter of an inch of rain for the next 7 days, right through next Monday night. For much of northeast Virginia to southern New England, and even actually extending it further north into southeastern and central New England. A little bit more, quarter to a half, and a few pockets of a little bit higher in the Carolinas, And also up and down the Appalachians, we've got some patches of a half to three-quarters of an inch of rain being indicated there. Looks wetter though from East Texas up the Mississippi Valley and then northwest into the northern plains with 1 to 2 inch rains being forecast, and that extends westward across Montana and Idaho. Of course, some of this is going to be snow, and in the Pacific Northwest, we're looking at rainfall amounts of generally on the order of three-quarters of an inch to an inch, inch and a half. Uh, Really, not all that um, wet in the next 7 days at least. But again, I think next week may wind up being a bit different from that standpoint, given what we've been seeing.
Yeah, I would agree. And we could use a quiet period where we don't have much in the way of precipitation. It's been, I think we're above normal so far this month of April here in the tri-state area in terms of rainfall and precipitation. Something like 4.5 or even 5 inches for some spots. So it's time that we turn the spigot off, and we will do that after again tomorrow when we'll have to deal with a few showers.
All right. As far as watches and warnings are concerned tonight, there really isn't very much. It's actually all centered in the middle Mississippi Valley with some frost advisories and freeze warnings there. And we've got red flag warnings in parts of Nebraska and into western Kansas, eastern Colorado. We do not have red flag warnings up in New Mexico or Arizona and Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, because we've been talking about how bone dry it's been down in the Southwest, but the red flag warnings are not up today, so that's a good that's a good thing. I haven't really been paying too much attention with regards to the fire going out there in Arizona. Maybe they got it under control now. I don't know. I don't know if you've heard anything
I
today.
I know I didn't catch the national headlines this evening. So, but I do know that we're still well advanced yesterday. So it would be hard for me to believe that the fire is under control, complete under control in just 24 hours. That's the so-called tunnel fire that's located near Flagstaff. I do note that they do have danger for fire conditions over in portions of North Texas, right in the Panhandle area, and into portions of Oklahoma and part of Colorado. So the dry weather continues, and the threat of wildfire also continues, at least across portions of the well, not necessarily the Southwest, but now it has moved eastward somewhat into portions of the southern plain states as well.
I've got the 850 millibar, or roughly 4,700 feet up. The temperature anomalies over the next couple of weeks. Now, I use this because it's a little smoother. If I use the 2 meter temperatures, it starts to get and it's supposed to do that. You start to see the impacts of areas that get onshore flow versus inland areas. So you could, you know, looking at this level, it's a lot more of a smoother look in terms of just talking about the overall trend. So you see that for tomorrow, I mean for today, it showed temperatures actually above normal. But again, that was not the case down at the surface. If you were under all those clouds all day, or even in the areas that got into some sunshine, the wind was coming in from the east, so the low level temperatures were down in the 50s, which is not above normal. But we'll be a little bit above normal tomorrow as the front goes by. And then here's the cold shot that we are getting for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So everybody pretty much east of the Mississippi will see below normal temperatures with the greatest temperature anomalies running in New York State, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Jersey, Delaware, et cetera, et cetera. Then that is going to slowly, it's still below normal into Saturday, then a little bit above average temperatures on Sunday and Monday. Now, this is the block in play, so this could change, but you see warm air coming up from the south. You have the cooler air in eastern Canada and in upstate New York, enveloped around into the colder air that's down in the northern plains, and then that swings eastward for the latter part of next week, and it's rather chilly here in terms of the temperature anomalies. This time, the greatest anomalies are going to be more in the mid and South Atlantic states later next week, and then that hangs a little bit. We're now at like day 12, day 13, Joe. We're still below average here In fact, right through the 2 16-day period. It, it may start to warm up there in parts of the plains in the upper Midwest, but the blockiness is going to keep things mostly below normal here. So, if, again, no sustained warmth anytime soon.
Yeah, that's going to be that's kind of tough to take. I mean, like as I said, we have had our fair share of cool weather, and I think a lot of people are waiting now for the protracted or prolonged spell of warm temperatures or even near seasonable temperatures. And it does not look like it's going to be happening, at least in the next 1 or 2 weeks. We're just going to have to put up with this until something finally breaks down. This block certainly does not help the matter any. And it looks like that's going to be hanging around for a while, at least right on into the early part of the new month of May.
Yeah. I'm going to run I'm going to run this loop of the 500 millibarbs. I'm going to run this loop backwards. I think it's useful sometimes to run it backwards so you get a flavor of where things have actually come from. And you'll notice we'll start at day 16 and we'll go back all the way to day 1. So right around day 13 to 16, we've got troughing in the east, and that actually swings out from an upper low that forms in Hudson Bay. All the while, you've got higher than normal pressures in the North Atlantic, north of 50 degrees north to Greenland. That stays that way and gives us that negative North Atlantic oscillation signal. We talked about it yesterday, and that's going to stay negative pretty much right through the next couple of weeks. Now I'll run it forward so you can see what's going on here. Got a ridge here in the east this week to start the week, but again, the bottom of the atmosphere, it's been fine for areas in western New York, western Pennsylvania, and points westward because they got into the warm air. Got to 80 yesterday in Syracuse. I don't know what they did today, but meanwhile, we saw what happened today at the coast with the east wind bringing in all that cooler air in the bottom part of the atmosphere with temperatures in the 50s all day. The next trough swings through and strengthens and actually sits around for a couple of days off in the Gulf of Maine, that upper low. Yeah, it's far enough east, Joe, and we're kind of on the edge of it. I think the only thing we might have to watch out for is if it's, while it's spinning away, sometimes you can get stuff that comes down from the north. So we'll have to just watch to see how it pivots around on the satellite. It may be more for eastern New England than anything else. That eventually will try to move out toward Newfoundland and weaken finally, but only to be replaced by another deep trough. Look at this trough on day 11, and this is next Friday. I mean, that flow. I drew that arrow, but I just put it up on the screen. I drew that yesterday, so off of yesterday's models, and it's still there. So here we are out at day 11, and the models haven't changed in the last 24 hours. Still showing a very deep trough late next week with an upper low in Hudson Bay going all the way down into Florida. And that just stubbornly sits around and spins in New England. And we still got this blocky look. And May 11th is the last day on this, which is, that's what day? That's Wednesday, May 11th. We're still in a blocking
so that's 16
pattern.
days. 16 days.
Yeah.
Right? 5 and then 11 is it? Yeah. So there you go.
Yep. All right. So let's run through the surface map. There's so much to talk about tonight, isn't there?
Yeah.
Uh,
I will say one thing. Tonight is your turn with Briller Jeopardy, and the chairman showed me the questions yesterday, and he said he did a lot of homework, a lot of research, and said I really did a lot of work in trying to get to stump Mr. Chiaffi. It is an I Love Lucy.
okay.
Briller Jeopardy, and I must tell you, Joe, that I'm nowhere near the same level as you are in terms of Lucy trivia, but even I was able to answer virtually all the questions. And I said, if I'm able to do this, there's no question that Mr. Chiaffi will be able to do this very quick. Make short work of Briller Jeopardy.
All right, so now throw all the pressure on my shoulders. Okay. So there's your front for tomorrow. Little wave that develops on it and goes out. The cool high builds down and actually holds it. The next storm coming out of the south, out of the west, with energy in the west. It's going to be another one of these wrapped up lows that produces wind and some snow, but it doesn't look like there's as much cold air this time around up in the northern plains. There's some, but it doesn't look all that impressive. That low is going to spin around and go northward like the last two did. And in the meantime, the high to the north should hold on just enough to keep us dry, I think, through the weekend. In fact, any precip that's running northeastward just falls apart long before it even gets here. There's something more important that comes out after that as we move into, say, Monday and Tuesday of next week. We'll see how that plays. And then overnight, the models were taking this low. I didn't look to see what the European did. They were taking this low underneath us and showing some snow for parts of the Catskills and the Adirondacks again, but now it's got a flatter look to it. But hey, it's early in the game, and you do have a blocky pattern, so don't be shocked if it winds up going back to uh, something like what it resembled back a couple of runs ago, and more nonsense as we move forward. Just kind of stays cool, and then maybe a little drier toward the end of this forecast period. But again, I think this week is going to be a mostly dry week except for tomorrow, and next week will probably be a different one where we'll have chances for some rain and some doom and gloom type of weather.
And we just love doom and gloom, don't we, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Oh, I just heard a little feedback. Let me just step back there. Let's put us on the screen. All right. Okay. So why don't we let's do it. Put me on the spot, Joe. Let's do it.
All right, before we get into this, we do have a question here, and I'm not an expert, but I have been here for almost 20 years attracting these species, so I think I have something to say about this. Lindy Lou asks, anybody know if the hummingbirds are back yet? Now, there is if you go on Google and type hummingbird maps, there is a website. I used to go to hummingbird.net, but that doesn't seem to be working anymore. But I am looking at the map right now, and at least here in the Hudson Valley, in my general vicinity, like, for example, at West Point, Cold Spring, apparently there was today a sighting of a ruby-throated hummingbird. Now, all of the years I've been up here, they've always been coming supposedly in April. I've always and I used to put my feeders out, and I'd have to wait, and I'd never ever see a hummingbird in April. For me, here in Putnam Valley, and maybe this will be the same for you, Lindy Lou, for here in the Putnam County area, I usually wait until the first week of May. So next week, I'll put my feeders out, and within a few days, I usually attract the first hummingbirds of the season. So I think it's still a little early, considering how cool it is. I would hold off at least for another week or so. But next week sometime, it might be worthwhile to set everything up and put your feeders out. And if you've seen them before, you'll certainly see them again, because they have a good memory. Hummingbirds, they usually come back to where they remember the feeder is, even after many months, and it'll be good to see them again. I'm always kind of sad when we get to September and I have to take them down, and knowing I'm not going to see them again until May. But yeah, next week, give it until next week, and then you could put your feeders out. Now let's go to the questions which have been put together by our one-man team of experts, the chairman, Scott Briller. And I will get that for you right now, Joe.
Okay, dokie.
It is, let's see if I can get this up here. Hopefully I will not have any problem now with, no, I don't. So here we go. All right. So he writes here to me, he wrote this yesterday. He said, on 3 previous I Love Lucy Briller Jeopardies, it was impossible to stump Mr. Jaffe. This time I dug deep, stayed up 24 hours, read 75,000 articles in Wikipedia, read 1,000 articles in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and read 46 trivia books to come up with 10 tough questions. Let's see if I can stump Joe. Are you ready for question number 1?
I'm ready.
What percent of alcohol is Vitamin-A-Vegemin?
Oh God. Two numbers pop into my head. Uh 17 or 24.
I will tell you, neither one is exactly correct, but one of those two is as close as you can get without being correct.
Probably closer to the 24, I would say.
Well, the answer is 23.
Okay.
So we're going to give you part credit for that. Anyway,
All right.
Number 2, you should know this easily. What is the name of the Ricardo's dog?
Fred.
Fred, correct. All right. Number 3, who was the uncle that raised Ricky in Cuba?
Oh, Uncle oh my God. I could see him right in front of me, the actor who played Uncle Alberto.
Correct. Number 4, what was Fred Mertz's middle name?
Uh Fred. Oh God. I'm trying to remember the
It's
episode.
it's an
Ethel
unorthodox name.
Ethel had a couple of middle names depending on which episode you refer to. Um, uh, she was Ethel Louise, Ethel Roberta, and Ethel May.
But we're
Fred.
not asking
I
about
know, I
Ethel. We're
know, I
asking about
know. I know.
Fred.
I'm churning my memory. You might stump me on this one because I can't seem to remember. Um, I'm not going to say Aloysius, which is the name that popped into my head. Um, yeah, I don't remember. I don't know.
Hobart.
Hobart, yes. Fred Hobart
Yes.
Mertz, yes.
Now, interestingly, number 5, the question was, what was Ethel's maiden name?
It was Potter.
Right. Now, when
Ethel May Potter, we never forgot her.
I wrote to Scott afterwards. I said, I'm not an I Love Lucy expert like Mr. Chiaffi, but I was able to answer most of these on my own. So Joe will probably do very well with these. And I said, incidentally, Ethel's full name in the Albuquerque episode was Ethel May Potter. And then I put in parentheses, we never forgot her.
Right, exactly.
I said, and yet in the friendship episode, Fred addresses her as Ethel
Louise Mertz.
Louise Mertz.
Yes. And in the Aunt Martha's old fashioned salad dressing episode, Lucy refers to her as Ethel Roberta.
See, there was no consistency in any of these episodes.
Well, you know what? You look through you could find errors like this in so many. Excuse me. I was about to. Excuse me. You could find these little mistakes and errors and changes that they made along the way because they wanted to, how the writers were writing a script. They needed to change Lucy's apartment number to 3D for the Lucy Tells the Truth episode, so to make the 3D joke later in the show would work. Anyway.
Right.
So that sort of stuff happened all the time.
Last night, for example, on the Honeymooners was the Thelma the Maid episode.
Yes.
And when they went to the company or the place where they would hire Thelma, and the guy asks, where do you live? Ralph said 728 Chauncey Street. And yet we all know, Honeymooner fans that we are, that the actual address was 328 Chauncey Street, not 728. But it may have been just a misfire on Jackie Gleason.
Well, when he said Jackie Gleason never rehearsed. He just basically, he went out on stage and did it live, and he apparently had the gift of being able to memorize on one read, but he would never rehearse during the week. So a lot of the stuff was ad-libbed.
Right. All right. So in question number 6, now that we're finally to 6, What war did Fred fight in?
World War One. He was a doughboy.
Right. It was him and Kurtz, right? Mertz and Kurtz,
Mertz and
vaudeville.
Kurtz, yes.
Yeah. All right. An easy question here for you. The drop in the bucket for any I Love Lucy fan. Number 7. What state did they move to during the last season?
Connecticut.
Right. Now I said it would have been slightly better if what city did in Connecticut did the
Westport.
Ricardos? Westport. That is right. That is right. And number 8, Ethel was from what Southwest city? And we already mentioned it.
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Number 9, what was the name of the chocolate factory Lucy and Ethel worked in?
Oh, Kramer's Candy Kitchen.
A very correct. I was going to say a very alliterative, and it was. Kramer was with a K, Candy was with a K, and Kitchen was with a K. What was the most viewed I Love Lucy episode?
The birth of little Ricky.
Lucy Goes to the Hospital.
Right.
Bonus question: how many episodes of I Love Lucy were there within 20?
100.
I don't suppose this includes the Lucy Desi comedy hour. This is the half-hour I Love Lucy episode.
Trying to remember if it was 179 or 181. I'll say 181.
Once again, you were off by just one. It was 180.
Split the difference. Now, my question is, on the episode count, if that includes the Christmas special, which was never part of the original package. So it might have been.
Would be 181.
Then it would be 181. But I don't know if the 180 or it could have been 179 plus the Christmas and it's 180. So I'll have to
right.
I'll have to figure that one out.
All right. Now, when we were talking about where they moved and what city it was in Connecticut or whatever, I asked Scott. I said, by the way, how much was their mortgage on that house that they bought in Westport? Ricky almost had a conniption when they mentioned the total cost.
Wasn't it like, I said, what is it, like $20,000? I think.
Rolling around in my head, it was 25,000, but it might have been 20. The bonus question that he adds to this is how much money did Ricky put down on the house in Connecticut?
$500 initially.
On a $500 initially on how many year mortgage?
Well, I'm guessing it's a 30-year mortgage.
Well, I think 30-year mortgages came, in our time, but it was a 20-year mortgage.
20-year?
Apparently back in 1955 or 54 or whatever year it was. But anyway, that is it. And I think you did very well with it.
All right.
Yes.
So, would that there was more to talk about tonight, folks. There isn't. Although I did have another person complain. Now, just a quick short rant here. Going back on yesterday about talking about weather that's not there, but complaining that, all you talk about is the cold. I'll come back when you start talking about the heat. Well, okay, that's fine. But, I can't talk about weather that doesn't exist. So if there's no heat around to talk about, we can't talk about it. And if the pattern is such that we think there's no heat coming anytime soon, well, then there's no heat coming anytime soon. Somebody posted on my Facebook page, Joe, saying, "Why are you always so negative?" And I thought about this, and I said, listen, when you read a weather, when we're doing our weathers or we're writing about it, we're writing from generally an unemotional place, okay, with as little bias as little personal bias as we can. Sometimes we might mention that we would like it to get warm, but it's not going to happen. Or we would like to see it get cooler, but that's not going to happen. So just bear that in mind. Weather people don't usually write their weathers to display their own emotional feelings about it. It tries to be as non-emotional and as non-biased as possible. So I just wanted to add that because people think that sit here, write stuff when we do it because we want to be mean. No, it just is what it is. When the weather gets warm, we'll let you know. When it gets cold again, we'll let you know. When it rains again, we'll let you know. When it snows again, we'll let you know. And when there's a hurricane or a tropical storm, we'll let you know. And that's it. My allergies are kicking in.
I have somebody on the chat board, Birder Lady, says the Hummers
Yes.
are being sighted throughout New Jersey and southern New York. I put mine out on tax day. They are here. Be sure to change the food. Joe R., you take your feeder down too early. When I say I take them down in September, I don't take them down on September 1st, which also happens to be my wedding anniversary. I usually wait until the latter days of September. I check every day in September, and if I still see them, humming around the feeders, I'll keep them out. I actually shouldn't do that because if you make them linger too long, that may be bad if they get the first wave of cold weather. But I have not I've taken them down as late as the end of September, but I don't usually leave them up beyond the end of September. So it breaks my heart. I love watching them. Apparently, a lot of you on the chat board have already seen yours. We'll be sure to put them out. I think also it's because of altitude. I'm 500 feet above sea level. I'm higher than most other areas around me, and maybe that's why I've never seen hummingbirds, early, like in April. I always wait until the first week of May. I see no reason to stop that. I'll do it. I'll put them out next week, and hopefully we'll see them soon. And Steve Lapointe says, "Where's Renata?" Renata is doing what she usually does now that she has daylight, and that is she's outside taking care of all kinds of stuff, pulling weeds and blowing and you know just getting the property back into shape after another dreary winter. So
Yep.
that's where she is right now.
All right. So on that note, let us say goodbye on this Monday night. We will see you tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern. Thank you for being here and being loyal, as always. Most appreciated. And that's it. So we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.